Hi, I'm Dr. Thomas Armstrong, and I'm making a series of short videos to promote my new book, The Power of Neurodiversity, Unleashing the Advantages of Your Neurodivergent Brain. This is a completely revised and updated second edition of a book that I originally wrote in 2010. The subject of this video is positive niche construction. One of my heroes as a child and teen was Charles Darwin. I did a science fair project rather, maybe it was a little fictional as well, on paramecia, which are these microorganisms. And I studied how they adopt the trait of heliotropism, or a penchant toward moving toward the light. Anyway, I was at the final competition and I was explaining my project to the evaluator. And as I was talking, I suddenly realized what natural selection was. I suddenly understood the basis of the origins of species, so to speak. And it was one of the great intellectual moments of my life. Darwin, of course, is famous for his theory of evolution, and in particular, his theory of natural selection. This is the idea that organisms, now I'm back in ninth grade trying to explain this to you now, organisms acquire characteristics or traits at random, and some of those traits are adapted well to the environment, and these traits enable that individual to survive, or that, in this case, that lizard to survive. Here he's got these traits of spottedness that blend in with the environment. As a result of that chance occasion or occurrence, he will survive. He will not be seen as well by a predator. So he'll be less likely to be eaten, therefore more likely to live, to mate, and to pass his genes on to the next generation. If another lizard had acquired a chance trait of being basically all white, solid white, probably wouldn't have survived because it would have been easy to track for a predator, would have been gobbled up early in their life, and hence wouldn't have met, wouldn't have dated, wouldn't have met anyone, any other lizard, and therefore, passing his genes on would not occur. And that's why we don't have, at least in that environment, white or albino lizards. So this idea that species evolve by acquired characteristics that are adapted to the environment made a strong impression on me. But it wasn't until maybe 15 years ago that I learned that there's another process through which species can evolve that doesn't involve random mutations. This is called niche construction. And this is a process of helping to ensure the thriving of an organism by directly modifying the environment in such a way that it enhances that organism's chances for survival. So here's another avenue through which species can evolve. They can construct an environment so they don't have to wait around for a random mutation. They construct their own environment that makes it easier or better for them to survive. We've got so many examples of this in the natural world. Beavers building dams are engaged in niche construction. Spiders spinning webs are involved in niche construction. Birds building nests. Ants building ant hills. Bees building hives. Bees building hives in all these ways are showing these organisms are showing that without this environment, they sure enough would probably not thrive and not pass their genes on, but with this hospitable environment, this optimal environment, they can do what they do best, make honey, or in the case of spider web, catch little flies and moths and such to eat, and therefore perpetuate their generation in that way. If you want to find out more about niche construction, which is a concept from evolutionary biology, there's a site called nicheconstruction.com, and you'll find a lot more information, plus many different ways in which organisms in the wild create intricate niche environments for themselves. Now you're probably wondering why I'm going on about animals, since this is a talk about neurodiversity. Well, what I've done is to take this concept from evolutionary biology and adapt it to human culture. And one of the best ways of expressing this is a quote from George Bernard Shaw, who was a Nobel Prize winner in literature. And if we can take account for his misogyny, he said, "The reasonable man adapts himself to the world around him. The unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends upon the unreasonable man." And this is what I noticed in my past as a special education teacher and working in the field of special education. We were devoting all of our efforts to trying to make the child adapt to the world around them, to make the child read, to make the dyslexic read, to make the autistic child more sociable, to make the ADHD child more focused, and so on. And that's all very well and good. That's very important because, after all, being able to survive in the world is a part of our adaptation and our success in the world. But what about changing the environment so that it fits us, so that it fits our own unique constellation of challenges and advantages? I call this process positive niche construction, helping to ensure the thriving of a child, teen, or adult by directly modifying the environment in such a way that it enhances that person's chances for success. So we're not talking here about surviving out in the wild. We're talking about how one can become successful in human culture by being oneself, not having to give away yourself by adapting all the time. I've identified at least 8 components of positive niche construction. And I should say also there's something called negative niche construction, which is putting together an environment that really tears you down and makes your life less than optimal. But I'll maybe do a video on that later, but right now let's focus on positive niche construction. The first and most important component is what I call strength awareness. If you're a neurodivergent child, teen, or adult, chances are you've had lots of experiences of being around people who see not the best in you, but the worst, or at least see you in terms of your negatives, what you can't do, can't read, can't relate, can't communicate, etc. And this wears a person down over time. And a necessary antidote to that is to learn as much as you can about your own strengths, talents, abilities, and assets. I've actually developed a checklist called the Neurodiversity Strengths Checklist. It consists of 200 items, and they're all related to strengths. And so it gives a person a chance to find out a lot of the positive things about themselves. So many of the assessments that I gave as a special ed teacher were all focused on finding deficits. And again, like I say, that really wears a person down and leaves them with a negative self-identity. So part of building a positive niche involves developing the sense of yourself as a positive, constructive, talented human being. By the way, if you want to receive this checklist, you can go to my website and sign up for my blog feed. I'll give you more information about that at the end of this video. The second component of positive niche construction is positive role models. People who are neurodivergent need to be surrounded by people that they know about who were neurodivergent also and who succeeded in life in different ways. So for example, for people with autism, Temple Grandin is a marvelous positive role model. She's an animal scientist who has designed 1/3 to 1/2 of all the animal machinery used to manage cattle in the country, in the United States. And she's also a powerful advocate for positive views of autism and neurodiversity. So, following individuals like this, learning about their lives, and it doesn't need to be people who are living, it could be people who are past. In fact, Charles Darwin qualifies as a neurodivergent person. He struggled with physical ailments and also with depression, anxiety disorders like OCD, and possibly PTSD. So he would be a champion, or also what I call in the book exemplar. Someone we can look up to. And I should also say it's not just famous people. It could be people in your community who are successful citizens who are neurodivergent, who have done things their way and can model what that's like for you. So you can believe that if they can do it, so can I. The next component is what I call strength-based learning strategies. That is learning something that's difficult for you through something that is easier for you or that is a strength in you. Just as an example, for a child on the autistic spectrum, one of the strengths of autism is the ability to develop very important and strong interests in specific things. And it's funny because scientists up until now have regarded this as a negative. They call them obsessions, which is really, to me, is the problem. There's a deficit paradigm where everyone will look at a strength and see a negative. But neurodiversity is different from that. We see the strength first. And so you have a child who loves music, has a special interest in music, and yet they are reticent to mix with others because of their being on the spectrum. Well, giving them their favorite instrument to play in front of the group or with the group helps develop their area of need, which is the need to be more sociable, and also uses their strength to boost their self-esteem. A fourth component of positive niche construction is what I call enhanced human networks. This means surrounding ourselves with people who see the best in us, who can help us develop our strengths even further. It may involve positive role models, but it may be a mentor in your own life. I know for people with intellectual disabilities, there are programs like Best Buddies that pair a person, let's say with Down syndrome, with a neurotypical individual to create a relationship that is positive and self-affirming. And you can think of all sorts of other ways of enhancing a social network by being involved in a online social network, by joining a support group of real people in a real room doing real things. It could involve finding tutors, finding or working with the special ed teacher in school and developing a good relationship with them. It could involve animals with people on the spectrum. There's animal therapy using dogs and horses and so on. So there are just a lot of ways of doing this. And in my book, The Power of Neurodiversity, I discuss many of these ways. The fifth component of positive niche construction is called what I call UDL and assistive technology tools. UDL means Universal Design for Learning. Universal Design for Learning came about when designers and architects developed ways of designing buildings and landscapes that help people with disabilities access the building or whatever, and also help other people. Now, who are neurotypical or had other neurodivergencies. The best example of that is the curb cut in a curb as you're going along on a crosswalk. So people on wheelchairs, for example, don't have to, lift their wheelchair over, but can glide along. But this also helps individuals who are neurotypical with their skateboards, mothers with their buggies, and so forth. So UDL, Universal Design for Learning, and assistive technology tools are tools that make it possible for us to do things that otherwise would have been much more difficult. A lot of these tools are computer oriented. And one example I'll give is the computer application Proloquo to Go from the company Assistive Wear. Proloquo to Go is an alternative augmentative communication device. And what it does is allows people who have communication problems on the spectrum, who have articulation problems, as some people with Down syndrome, for example, and allows them to communicate directly to others through the touch of a button. So there are all these symbols on the board, and these Proloquo to Go has thousands and thousands of communications that one can put on the board. And you press a button and it will say that particular thing. So it helps you work around. I call these workarounds also. Helps you work around the difficulty that you might otherwise have in communicating. And again, in my book, The Power of Neurodiversity, I have lots of examples of this. And in a future series of videos that I do, I'll be highlighting specific ones that work for different neurodiversities. The sixth component of positive niche construction I have termed positive career aspirations. So many people who have neurodivergencies and the parents of those people and teachers and so forth oftentimes worry that when they get out of school, they will be lost. What will they do with their lives? There's no thought to career, or if there's a thought of a career for some parents, it's like, well, we'll have to find a sheltered workshop for my Down syndrome child where they kind of stand at tables and put together cardboard boxes. It's a very menial and in some ways a negative way of earning one's keep. Not that it isn't appropriate for some people, but the point is there are a lot of careers out there that are tailor-made to specific forms of neurodiversity. So, for example, people with diagnosed with ADHD, what they need is thrills and chills. They need movement. They need novel situations. The worst job for them, in my opinion, would be a 9-to-5 desk job where they have to sit there the whole time. It would be unendurable. And if they cracked under the pressure, then that would be attributed to their neurodiversion, to their pathology. So that wouldn't help them at all. Whereas a career like being an EMT, an emergency medical technician, would be an ideal job for such an individual with all of its constant, emergencies going on and the need to be moving all the time and new situations cropping up every day. Emergency room physician would be a similar one. People who are identified as ADHD also do really well in nature. Research suggests that the more they're in nature, the more their symptoms go away. So that's, careers that involve nature would be important to consider as well. I'll have lots of examples in my book, The Power of Neurodiversity, and also examples I'll give in future videos. The seventh component of positive niche construction is environmental modifications. These are ways in which we can actually change our physical living space or learning space if we're in school, so that it makes it easier for us to function. In school, they're more and more using what I call wiggly furniture, stability balls that you can sit on, or standing desks so you don't have to do your work sitting down, so that you can move, because research has also shown that fidgeting can actually assist students in learning, especially those diagnosed with ADHD. But thinking about the ways in which we can make our home or school environment more comfortable, more amenable, more relaxing, more tranquil, will be helpful to bringing out the best in an individual. The last component in uh, my system of positive niche construction I call inner resources. This is the development of not the outer environment, as with environmental modifications, but it's basically, if you want to think about it, as inner environmental modifications. We're talking about changing our mind, our attitudes, our beliefs, our images, so as to promote our well-being. I talk a lot in my book, The Power of Neurodiversity, about mindfulness meditation as being an appropriate intervention for almost all the neurodiversities that I cover in the book. And it's the ability to focus on the present moment for a period of time. So sitting in a comfortable position, paying attention to your breath, noticing anything that comes up that distracts you, and just kind of noticing it and going back to your breath. This is a very positive. In fact, the research is increasingly showing how good it is for things like depression, mood disorders, anxiety disorders, but other neurodiversities as well. And then there's the intervention of mindset. The work of Carol Dweck at Stanford University suggests that if we have a growth mindset as opposed to a fixed mindset, we will succeed more. A growth mindset is the belief that if I work hard at something, I will get better at it. A fixed mindset is the feeling that, well, I was just born with what I've got, and I've got to deal with that. So it's much better to help people develop a growth mindset to help them succeed in life. So that's a little bit about positive niche construction. I have a whole chapter in the book, early on in the book, introducing you to positive niche construction. And then throughout the rest of the book, I have lots more examples, hundreds of examples of the kinds of strategies that I've just shared with you. I hope you get the book. I hope you share it with your friends, your relatives, your teachers, your therapists, and so forth. Again, I want to say that if you want my neurodiversity strengths checklist, which has 200 items in it, go to my website, which is institute4learning.com. That's institute4learning.com, and sign up on my homepage or on my blog page, either one. And if you sign up, you'll receive in your email a 200-item neurodiversity strengths checklist. So anyway, I want to thank you for listening, for watching and paying attention to some of the things I've been showing you. I hope this information is useful to you, and I hope that wherever you are, whether it's morning, noon, or night, you are doing well and that you are moving towards wellness. Thank you.